the St. Thomas-Elgin Food Bank. In fact, that's when I usually see you, is doing sometime during the food bank stuff when we run into one another. So you see it at all levels, I know. And I know you work with the Greenhouse Vegetable Growers Association. I get all of that. But that assessment that I just made about food security, do you think I'm wrong there? Am I only looking at that through a food bank lens? Do I need to have a wider view? What's your view on that?
No, I don't think you're looking at it through a food bank lens. I've been blessed. My partner Karen McDade has been running the St. Thomas-Elgin Food Bank since 2013, and when Karen assumed that role, I chose to become a volunteer, and so I've been volunteering for the last 12 years, and I watched the food bank move from a small little location, move in the middle of COVID, and not miss a beat
Yeah.
and continue to serve its clients with respect and dignity. And even my own observations over the past 12 years, and particularly over the past few years, just the sheer numbers. If I was a business and my business was up 30% year over year, I'd be pretty darn happy. But that's what's happening within the
Yeah.
food bank sector right now, and it's really really scary to see. Um, you know, um, with rents rising and variable rate mortgages, more and more people are having to turn to the food bank. And the community is extremely generous with its financial donations and its food donations. Um, Industry has come to the table to try and help out, but no, it is food security is a real issue. And again, this is something that we talked about before of roles that governments can play. And I think a greater role needs to be viewed by federal and provincial government of how do we deal specifically with food. I recognize that there's other issues, but food insecurity is very real. And and it's there's organizations out there that are trying to ensure that food doesn't go to waste. But there's still a lot of food that is being wasted in this province, and we are the most diverse agricultural region in Canada. We have the most diverse food processing industry in all of Canada, and I know that the farmers, the growers, the food processors, they give back and they've been very supportive. But we need to find more ways to help incentivize those individuals to try and give back and help out.
Do you agree, Steve, with there's people out there that say we need to get rid of food banks. Like they were supposed to be temporary, but they're hanging around, and we need to get rid of them. And I realize there's a need for them at the moment. But do you think that they play a role besides that just in society? I'd be interested in your view.
Well, I think certainly from a food standpoint, but I find that the food bank as well is a good resource center. Our food
Mm,
bank works very closely with an organization down here called the Food Providers Network,
yeah.
and that has brought together everybody that's involved in food to ensure everyone knows who's doing what. Here's a weekly meal, here's a daily meal. So that there's a lot other, not just the food bank, but there's a lot of other providers out there that are offering up support. So I see the food bank as a very valuable organization from the standpoint of just making sure that they can educate the public as to other resources that are out there. And I think every food bank is probably, thought that they would disappear. The St. Thomas Food Bank, now they were established in 1986, and that was just done as a temporary measure. And it doesn't have any sign of ending anytime soon.
Yeah. I see a couple of things I would add to that. One is I remember when food banks first got started. So this is back at the beginning of '86. And, I would do these interviews and talk with people. And I would say, look, you might not like it, but the public wants in. And the shocking thing about all of that was that so many Londoners and businesses and associations and faith groups all took part. It was almost like they'd been waiting for an opportunity because it was a recession. They knew that people were in need. And finally, they got an opportunity with a bag in the paper and they could put food in and take it to a grocery store, take it to a fire hall. So I think that is really important. You don't really have a very dynamic citizenry if it's just government doing it all. So I do believe that there's a role that citizens have to play. And the second thing that I've seen is as food banks have gotten larger and develop stronger networks, even amongst other food banks in the country or in the province, or with business communities or agencies. It turns out that for us in London, our board really tries to focus on the fact we know we're not really dealing with poverty. We're putting some food in somebody's stomach for a period of time from some emergency supplies. But we're helping 40 other agencies that do deal with poverty, right? And whose own budgets are shrinking, and we're able to take on those food budget aspects for them. So we feel better within ourselves that we're actually helping the groups that deal with poverty. If the food banks now were suddenly to pull out or to collapse, those groups would have to come up with that food bank nationally, provincially, all that kind of stuff. And they just don't have the wherewithal to be able to do that. But I am interested in your thoughts, because I think if we're just talking basically about a food bank helping out a particular period of time and it's tough, yes, maybe we can develop an alternative. But the millions of Canadians that support food banks, I'm not sure they see it the same way. I think they do want in. I think they do want to help. And I know that that's your feeling in St. Thomas too, because you guys have great responses to your drives.
Yeah, no, and I think one of the things that has struck me over the past 12 years of volunteering has been how collaborative food banks are with one another. I look at London acting as a hub for a number of food banks in southwestern Ontario, where we go bi-weekly and pick up milk, and we go to
Yeah.
London to pick up the eggs, and when certain food orders come through, they go through the London hub. And I think that collaborative effort is
Yeah.
has been really great to see. I also witnessed too, that there's a lot of agricultural organizations that are out there, whether it's the dairy farmers or the chicken farmers or the egg producers, who are recognizing that they need to find a way to help corporately support, as well too. And I know there was a recent donation from Maple Leaf Foods of chicken that the announcement may have been made at the London Food Bank, but the beneficiaries of that announcement were food banks all over
Yeah.
southwestern
That's
Ontario.
correct. Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing to see, and I see that as much as sometimes people get frustrated with grocery stores, the grocery stores as well are very cognizant of trying to not be wasting food. We deal with a couple grocery stores in St. Thomas that
Yep.
when a product has come to date, they put it right into the freezer,
Yeah.
flash freeze it,
Yeah.
and then it's donated to the food bank. But in the past, even my days of A&P, the amount of food that went into the garbage chute was mind-boggling. But we're
Hmm.
seeing more and more food
Yeah.
rescued all the time, and there's organizations out there that are out doing food rescue too. So we're all that collaborative nature is something that I really appreciate. That people aren't working in silos; they want to work together to help each other.
Yeah. Steve, you are one fascinating citizen. I mean, you've got a lot of knowledge, and I hear it from you every time I see you. I'm so impressed. Wish I knew half of what you did, but you've also got experience. I mean, real experience in all of these different sectors. It really means a lot to me that you'd be willing to come on a community television show and help, the population understand some of these challenges and opportunities that are there. I know you're a busy guy, but I really appreciate you doing this, Steve. And I might call you again in the future, because when we need a good dose of knowledge or experience or just realism, we'll need to hear from you again. Thanks for this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity very much, Glenn. Thanks.
Thank you.